The golden flame pillar roared across the sky like a dragon, its ferocious claws slashing through the air, bringing with it a terrifying force that seemed capable of destroying everything. As it descended with a deafening crash, the earth seemed to tremble in response. Within the range of the golden flame pillar, a slender figure stood motionless, seemingly gazing upwards. The golden flames in his dark pupils rapidly expanded, yet he remained perfectly still, as if stunned by the overwhelming force, unable to move. What a pity! Countless powerful figures in the world sighed in regret. Mu Chen's talent was extraordinary. Had he been given a few more years of cultivation, he would undoubtedly have become the pinnacle of the younger generation in the northern domain. But alas, it is often these brilliant geniuses whose lives are cut short by the very greatness they possess. Boom! Under the intense gaze of numerous strong figures, including Su Biyue, Hong Yu, and others high in the sky, the golden flame pillar finally crashed down. In that instant, it felt as though the very heavens and earth shook. On the Dragon Phoenix platform, the golden dragon scales on the ground began to melt under the searing heat of the golden flames, transforming into liquid gold that flowed out. The entire Dragon Phoenix platform was melting at an astonishing rate. The destructive power of this attack made even the most seasoned experts flinch. This strike from Lu Yan, using every ounce of his strength, was truly terrifying. As the fourth-ranked figure on the Dragon Phoenix record, his reputation was well-earned. Su Biyue, Hong Yu, Ding Xian, and other top-ranked experts on the Dragon Phoenix record looked on with solemn expressions. They pondered. If it were them facing Lu Yan's attack, they might survive, but they would undoubtedly suffer severe injuries. As for Mu Chen, at this point, he would likely leave nothing behind, not even ashes. Fang Yi, the Netherworld prince, and Cai Xiao, their breaths in perfect synchrony, watched the melting Dragon Phoenix platform. Their eyes narrowed slightly. Fang Yi and the Netherworld prince remained composed, but Cai Xiao's brows furrowed, clearly concerned. Fang Yi and the Netherworld prince, both sharp-minded, immediately sensed Cai Xiao's worry. Fang Yi smiled faintly, but said nothing. He didn't view Mu Chen as a significant threat, so whether Mu Chen lived or died wouldn't stir his heart. However, if Mu Chen died, Cai Xiao would undoubtedly be affected, and that small crack in her resolve would be enough to place her at a disadvantage. Thus, although Fang Yi appeared relaxed, a vast and powerful spiritual energy quietly flowed within him, like a lurking beast ready to unleash its destructive power. Above the Dragon Phoenix platform, Lu Yan stood on the head of his heavenly flame Dharma body. His face was pale, clearly exhausted from the previous attack, but his eyes were sharp and cold, like a wolf, fixated on the melting Dragon Phoenix platform below. This was his strongest trump card. Within the fourth grade supreme ranks, no one could withstand it. And Mu Chen, a mere third grade supreme, despite his many skills, was surely doomed. Foolish creature, you deserve to perish here. Lu Yan sneered grimly, but as his laughter faded, his pupils suddenly contracted. He looked up in shock, his eyes filled with disbelief, staring at the slowly melting Dragon Phoenix platform. High above, Su Biyue, Hong Yu, and the other powerful figures sensed something was amiss. Their eyes turned towards the golden flame-filled, melting Dragon Phoenix platform. There, the golden flames churned, releasing an intense heat. But within that firestorm, heavy footsteps suddenly echoed. Each step was like the weight of a mountain, causing the Dragon Phoenix platform to tremble with every impact. The other experts felt the disturbance and immediately fell silent. They stared in horror at the golden inferno, their faces filled with dread. There, a sudden gust of wind swept through, scattering the golden flames. As the firestorm dissipated, a towering figure emerged, standing calmly. This figure, clad in dark golden armor that resembled dragon scales, exuded an aura of overwhelming might and menace. Upon the armor, dragon-like images could be faintly seen, emanating a terrifying pressure. Behind this armored figure, a pair of massive phoenix wings slowly unfurled. The golden armored figure stood tall amidst the melted, pitted Dragon Phoenix platform. Despite the scorching heat of golden flames that had turned his body a crimson hue and caused it to constantly emit white smoke, it was clear to all that beneath the golden armor, A pair of chillingly sharp eyes gleamed through. It was Mu Chen. He had actually withstood Lu Yan's full-force strike. Countless eyes widened in disbelief at the scene. How is this possible? Lu Yan's face was filled with shock as he couldn't help but let out a low, involuntary growl. His heart was in turmoil. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't fathom why Mu Chen was still standing after taking such a terrifying blow. In the sky, Su Biyue, Fang Yi, and others also drew in a sharp breath. The contempt that had once filled their eyes when looking at Mu Chen was gone. The strength Mu Chen displayed now made even them feel an extreme sense of danger. This was a person who posed a mortal threat to them. On the other side of the sky, Cai Xiao's beautiful eyes gazed at the figure, her rosy lips slightly curving upwards. Fang Yi and the Netherworld prince also exchanged a fleeting glance, their expressions subtly shifting. Clang, clang. The golden-armored figure took heavy steps, and as he moved, faint traces of blood appeared between the golden dragon scales of the dragon phoenix golden armor. Clearly, even with the protection of the armor, Mu Chen was not completely unscathed. However, despite this, the black eyes beneath the golden armor remained sharp as blades. He paid no attention to the intense pain surging through his body. His eyes, as piercing as those of a hawk, fixed on Lu Yan. A hoarse voice emerged from beneath the armor. Next, it's my turn. Lu Yan's pupils contracted, and the spiritual energy within him erupted violently, red light flooding the skies. Boom. However, Mu Chen stomped his foot, and the indestructible dragon phoenix platform beneath him cracked open, sending golden light flashing as his figure shot up into the sky. He appeared directly in front of the myriad flames Dharmakaya, then suddenly threw his head back and let out a long, resounding roar. In his cry, the sounds of a dragon's roar and a phoenix's cry could be heard in perfect harmony. Brilliant dark golden light exploded from within him, and before his chest, the shadow of a true dragon materialized. Behind him, as the phoenix wings flapped, the true phoenix's cry echoed. Dragon phoenix harmony. In an instant, a sense of ancient pressure spread across the heavens and earth. Even the dragon phoenix platform seemed to tremble in response to the dragon and phoenix cries. What is that? Countless powerful figures were stunned, staring at the dragon and phoenix shadows before and behind Mu Chen. The ancient pressure they felt was not something a normal dragon clan could possess. This was the true pressure of a true dragon and true phoenix. Dragon phoenix body. Su Biyue's mouth slightly opened in shock, her once melodious voice now dry. In her beautiful eyes, there was a look of incredulity. Fang Yi, Ding Xian, and the others were also shaken, their faces filled with horror. Dragon phoenix body. The legendary powerful physique that could only be cultivated by fusing the essence blood of the true dragon and true phoenix? But how is this possible? The essence blood of the dragon and phoenix cannot coexist. If fused, the body would inevitably explode and die. This, not to mention them. Even a top-level supreme being at the earthly supreme level would never be able to do it. According to logic, this should indeed be the case. But no one had expected that Mu Chen would actually obtain the Dragon Phoenix Golden Armor, which had been nourished by the essence blood of the true dragon and true phoenix. Using this divine artifact, he was able to fuse the essence blood and cultivate the unique Dragon Phoenix body. Therefore, although the Dragon Phoenix heaven had been established for so many years, and the legend of the Dragon Phoenix body existed, no one had ever heard of anyone truly succeeding in cultivating it. So, when they saw Mu Chen surrounded by the dragon and phoenix shadows, they were left in stunned silence. Fang Yi and the Netherworld prince, who had been restraining Cai Xiao, and whose faces were usually calm, now showed signs of change. They glanced at Mu Chen deeply, faintly sensing a growing sense of crisis. This young man, he might really challenge their status. Boom. Countless astonished gazes fell upon Mu Chen, but he paid no attention. He looked at Lu Yan's terrified face, his lips curling into a fierce grin. Then, he clenched his 5 fingers, and with no unnecessary flourish, he punched. It was a simple punch, yet it was accompanied by an overwhelming wave of golden light. This punch was the moment when Mu Chen fully unleashed his spiritual energy, reaching its utmost potential. At the same time, The power of the Dragon Phoenix body was channeled through the Dragon Phoenix golden armor, erupting with all its might. With one punch, the winds and clouds shifted. Thunder roared across the sky. Lu Yan's expression darkened instantly, and his hands quickly formed seals. The myriad flames Dharmakaya also poured its full strength into the attack, with a massive fist wrapped in crimson flames bursting forward. Boom! Two fists of completely disproportionate size tore through the void, and in the next instant, they collided with a thunderous crash under the watchful eyes of countless spectators. At the moment of impact, the clouds in the sky were instantly torn apart, and even the two nearby Dragon Phoenix platforms were shattered by the shockwave. Golden light swept through the air, and countless powerful warriors blinked, their eyes widening in shock. For in the wake of the punch, under the influence of the Dragon Phoenix shadow and the punch marks, cracks swiftly spread across the myriad flames Dharmakaya's giant fist. In just a few breaths, it exploded with a deafening sound. Bang! The enormous myriad flames Dharmakaya was shattered by Mu Chen's punch, ripped apart violently. Countless powerful warriors were shaken to their core. The outcome of this battle was already decided. But once again, the result was beyond everyone's expectations. Boom! As the massive form of the myriad flames Dharmakaya exploded, it transformed into a rain of light points scattering across the sky. Within the dazzling array of light, everyone saw a disheveled figure being blasted backward. Uffed! The figure spat blood mid-air, his powerful spiritual energy fluctuating and withering to the extreme, clearly suffering severe injuries. Lu Yan is defeated. Countless powerful warriors exclaimed in shock. By this point, the outcome was nearly certain. Lu Yan was severely injured, his combat power greatly diminished, and it was impossible for him to continue resisting Mu Chen. Mu Chen maintained the posture of having just thrown the punch, his sharp gaze locked onto the flying Lu Yan. In the depths of his eyes, a trace of killing intent flickered. Without any hesitation, he surged forward, heading straight for the injured Lu Yan. The overwhelming killing intent sent a chill through everyone. It was clear that Mu Chen was determined to finish the job. His decisiveness sent a shiver down the spines of many powerful warriors. Despite his youthful appearance, his methods were enough to make anyone wary. Lu Yan, heavily injured and seeing Mu Chen charging toward him, instantly changed his expression. He shouted fiercely, "Kid, if you dare kill me, the Xiantian Palace will make sure you die without a burial place." At this moment, his strength had dwindled to the extreme. If the battle continued, it was clear that he would be facing life-threatening danger. However, despite Lu Yan's angry shout, Mu Chen's cold eyes betrayed no emotion. His figure moved, appearing directly before Lu Yan. His heavy palm, wrapped in scales, crackled with immense spiritual energy as it mercilessly slammed down toward Lu Yan's heavenly spirit cap. Faced with Mu Chen's deadly attack, Lu Yan's face finally displayed a hint of fear. Mu Chen's ruthlessness and decisiveness were completely unexpected. "You want to kill me? It won't be that easy." But Lu Yan, unlike his younger brother Lu Ming, was not someone who would panic in a crisis. With an enraged roar, cracks began to appear across his body, from which violent spiritual energy shot out uncontrollably. Mu Chen's eyes twitched as he saw this. This guy was planning to self-destruct his body. Whoosh! Mu Chen quickly retreated, and at that moment, Lu Yan's body exploded in a violent burst. A terrifying spiritual energy storm raged across the area, distorting the space itself and causing spatial rifts to tear open. The shockwave hit Mu Chen, causing a muffled grunt to escape his throat. Fortunately, the Dragon Phoenix golden armor protected him, so he wasn't seriously injured. However, he was still blasted back more than 1,000 feet. Amidst the chaotic spiritual storm, a streak of spiritual light shot across the sky, and the space twisted, quickly disappearing. It was Lu Yan's divine soul, clearly having escaped through the self-destruction of his body. Mu Chen narrowed his eyes upon seeing this, but he made no further move. Lu Yan had self-destructed his body, and his divine soul was severely wounded. Even if he had escaped with his life, he would likely be half destroyed. In the sky above, the raging spiritual energy storm gradually began to subside. However, All eyes on the world were still locked in shock on the golden-armored figure standing in midair. He stood still in the sky, yet an aura so terrifying that it made one's heart tremble emanated from him. Under such pressure, even powerful figures like Su Biyue and Hong Yu couldn't help but wear solemn expressions. Facing a person capable of defeating Lu Yin and forcing him to self-destruct his physical body and escape with his soul, it was clear that no one in the vicinity could harbor any thoughts of underestimating him. Above the sky, Mu Chen's body shimmered with golden light, and the dragon phoenix golden armor quickly fused into his skin, revealing his figure once again. As Mu Chen's form became visible, the many powerful figures couldn't help but be stunned. At this moment, Mu Chen's body was covered in a thin layer of blood chains, formed from coagulated blood. The chains also bore some hideous scars. Clearly, these injuries were inflicted on him by Lu Yan's final blow earlier. Mu Chen's body slightly trembled, and the blood chains instantly fell away. The deep and hideous scars began to heal at a visible rate, and in just a few short breaths, his body was fully restored. The speed of recovery left the onlookers dumbfounded. Mu Chen was extremely satisfied with his recovery speed. The dragon phoenix essence blood that had fused with his bloodline brought him vitality comparable to that of divine beasts. As long as the damage wasn't catastrophic, he could heal at an astonishing rate. Feeling his body fully restored, Mu Chen raised his head and scanned his surroundings. Within his deep black eyes seemed to lurk a peerless beast, its sharpness overwhelming and chilling. Coupled with the overwhelming momentum from his earlier defeat of Lu Yan, Mu Chen's aura had nearly reached its peak. In such a moment, even powerful figures like Su Biyue, Hong Yu, and Ding Xian couldn't help but avoid his gaze, not daring to show the slightest hint of hostility. The young man before them was not to be trifled with. The world fell silent. Countless powerful figures exchanged glances, all of them shaken by Mu Chen's aura. At this point, no one would dare to underestimate him anymore. Mu Chen's eyes swept across the sky, finally locking onto the other side, where three figures hovered in midair. The three of them were in a standoff, and within a radius of several thousand feet, they formed an aura that made it impossible to approach. However, the sharpness of Mu Chen's gaze caused the previously stable aura to waver slightly. At the same time, all eyes in the world were drawn to the sky. While Mu Chen and Lu Yan had fought fiercely earlier, everyone knew that the real battlefield lay in this region. Though Mu Chen had defeated Lu Yan, compared to Cai Xiao, Fang Yi, and the Netherworld Prince, he was still somewhat lacking. Even now that Mu Chen had defeated Lu Yan, if he were to step into the fray between these three powerful figures, he would have to face the even stronger Netherworld Prince. The prince was a top-tier genius who had held the second spot on the Dragon Phoenix record for years. Even someone as prideful as Lu Yan was extremely cautious in the face of the Netherworld Prince, so despite Mu Chen's victory over Lu Yan, no one believed he could stop the brutal Netherworld Prince. Under the gaze of countless eyes, Fang Yi and the Netherworld Prince slightly furrowed their brows, clearly taken aback by the current turn of events. "It seems I've disappointed you," Cai Xiao said softly, a dangerous gleam beginning to gather in her mesmerizing eyes. Fang Yi smiled slightly, though his body tensed, sensing the cold, killing intent slowly emanating from Cai Xiao. Clearly, she was no longer able to suppress her urge to strike. "If you intend for him to block the Netherworld Prince, he'll probably die," Fang Yi said calmly. Cai Xiao's lips curled into a cold smile. "I'll make sure you die first." Fang Yi's eyes narrowed slightly, a cold glint flashing in his indifferent gaze. He tilted his head and turned his gaze to the Netherworld Prince. "Sure." Fang Yi nodded decisively, agreeing to the Netherworld Prince's terms because he knew that, at this moment, he needed to leverage the Netherworld Prince's strength to stand a chance against Mu Chen and Cai Xiao. "Don't hold back. Kill her quickly. She's not easy to deal with." Fang Yi's eyes were fixed on Cai Xiao as he spoke slowly. The Netherworld Prince nodded. He had already fought Cai Xiao before and was well aware of how formidable this mysterious girl was. If it were a one-on-one battle, even he wasn't confident he could defeat her, so he had to deal with Mu Chen as quickly as possible, and then join forces with Fang Yi to take down Cai Xiao. The Netherworld Prince's deep eyes turned toward Mu Chen, his gaze filled with indifference. "Quite a big mouth." At this moment, Cai Xiao smiled gently, but her beautiful eyes were filled with coldness. She stared at Fang Yi, then turned to Mu Chen and asked, "Can you hold him off for a while?" Mu Chen's eyes also locked onto the Netherworld prince at this moment. Though he could sense the overwhelming danger emanating from the prince, he still nodded lightly. "I won't let him interfere with your battle," Mu Chen whispered. Cai Xiao gave Mu Chen a deep look, then slightly nodded. She was well aware of Mu Chen's strength, though she didn't know if he could really stop the Netherworld prince. But given the current situation, if she didn't take this step, neither she nor Mu Chen would be able to break the deadlock. Thus, she could only choose to trust Mu Chen. "Stop me." The Netherworld prince stood in midair, his indifferent gaze fixed on Mu Chen. Then, a faint smile seemed to appear on his pale face, as if he found Mu Chen's confidence somewhat amusing. "The fate of Lu Yen is probably a lesson for you," he murmured to himself, then gently twisted his palms. Dark spiritual energy gathered beneath his hands, and it seemed as though it was transforming into a black hole. Instantly, the surrounding space began to vibrate violently, and an immense wave of spiritual energy pressure surged forward, sweeping across the heavens and earth. The moment the Netherworld prince's tremendous spiritual energy pressure hit, Su Biyue, Hong Yu, and other powerful figures in the sky couldn't help but change their expressions, gasping in shock. "Fifth Grade Supreme?" Mu Chen's heart also trembled upon hearing this. The Netherworld prince had actually reached the level of 5th Grade Supreme. If that was true, then this battle would truly be unpredictable. The Netherworld prince stood in midair, his pale face expressionless. The terrifying spiritual energy pressure poured out of his body like a flood, causing the entire world to tremble. Everyone felt the pressure of the spiritual energy, their faces changing color, including Mu Chen. Because this spiritual energy pressure had already surpassed that of an ordinary 4th Grade Supreme and was now, unmistakably, at the 5th Grade Supreme level. Had the Netherworld prince truly broken through to the 5th Grade Supreme? Countless powerful individuals were shocked. A 5th Grade Supreme was a figure who could easily stand at the top of any major faction. Moreover, among the younger generation in the Northern Domain, this level of strength felt nearly unattainable. Some people couldn't help but glance at Mu Chen with sympathy. If there had been a glimmer of hope for Mu Chen in his fight against Lu Yen, then facing the Netherworld prince, whose strength had advanced to 5th Grade Supreme, the chances of victory were practically non-existent. Under the gaze of many sympathetic eyes, Mu Chen also stared solemnly at the expressionless Netherworld prince. His heart was shaken. The power of a 5th Grade Supreme was enough to seal a kingdom in their great Luo Heaven domain. Lu Yan's strength may have been considered outstanding among the 4th Grade Supremes, but compared to the Netherworld prince, the gap was simply too vast. Is this the difference between the 2nd and 3rd spots in the Dragon Phoenix record? Mu Chen's hand clenched involuntarily. His gaze fixed firmly on the Netherworld prince, and he could feel his physical body subtly aching. It was as though his body sensed an immense threat. Though there was only a 1-level difference between 5th and 4th Grade Supreme, the gap between them was far greater than the difference between the previous grades. The 9 grades of Supreme, the first 4 grades only differ in spiritual energy strength. This is a rather powerful ability for both survival and launching unexpected attacks. With this ability, a 4th Grade Supreme encountering a 5th Grade Supreme would essentially be forced to stand there and take the blows. This is why when the powerful figures discovered that the Netherworld prince possessed 5th Grade Supreme strength, they cast sympathetic glances at Mu Chen. In their eyes, this battle had no suspense. No matter how powerful Mu Chen's methods were, he was absolutely incapable of defeating the Netherworld prince. "Do you still want to continue?" the Netherworld prince asked with an indifferent expression. Mu Chen smiled upon hearing this, though he did not answer. However, there was clearly no trace of fear in his pitch-black eyes. The Netherworld prince was indeed strong, but for him to want Mu Chen to retreat without a fight, let's be blunt, the Netherworld prince was still far from having that kind of qualification. The Netherworld prince looked at Mu Chen, and without any surprise in his gaze, he simply smiled faintly and said, "It seems that the talent from your great Luo Heaven domain will fall here in Dragon Phoenix Heaven." Mu Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. Just as he was about to speak, his pupils suddenly contracted. He saw the space around the Netherworld prince twist abruptly, and his figure disappeared like a ghost. Boom. The space behind Mu Chen suddenly distorted, and a palm strike containing powerful spiritual energy was like a ghostly shadow, slamming down on his back. The sudden and bizarre attack made Mu Chen's face change, but he was always on guard. He immediately formed a hand seal. Spiritual light surged, and his form transformed into a blurry dragon shadow. As the dragon shadow swayed, the surrounding space twisted, and his body vanished into the distorted space. The palm strike missed, and the Netherworld prince reappeared. Seeing that his attack had missed, a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. He then murmured, "I didn't expect that with your mere third-grade supreme strength, you could also traverse space. But unfortunately, your control over this body technique is too weak." As the last word left his mouth, his figure disappeared once again, leaving only the fluctuating space. 1,000 feet away, in a certain space, the space rippled, and a dragon shadow flashed out. But just as the dragon shadow was about to turn into Mu Chen's form, his expression changed once more. In front of him, the space rippled again, and a ghostly figure burst forth. The palm strike came like a relentless worm, carrying the force of a mountain, surging forward. This time, Mu Chen couldn't evade. The immense force of the palm swept toward him, almost suffocating him. Golden light surged from Mu Chen's body, and the dragon phoenix golden armor instantly manifested. At the same time, a layer of fine, dark golden dragon scales appeared on his skin. In just a few breaths, he fully unleashed his internal power. He then slammed both palms forward, meeting the Netherworld prince's palm strike head-on in front of countless stunned eyes. Boom. The moment their palms collided, it was like thunder exploding between heaven and earth. The shockwave, visible to the naked eye, swept through the area, causing the space within a 10,000-foot radius to ripple like waves. The shockwave wreaked havoc, and Mu Chen's body suddenly shook, flying backward for over 1,000 feet. A sweet taste rose in his throat, and he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of fresh blood. A sharp pain surged through his arms, as if his bones had shattered. This made Mu Chen's expression grow even more solemn. The Netherworld prince was indeed incredibly powerful. If he hadn't been protected by the Dragon Phoenix golden armor and his Dragon Phoenix body, his arms would likely have been broken by now. As Mu Chen was sent flying, the Netherworld prince also trembled slightly and retreated several dozen steps. His indifferent face showed a brief fluctuation, and his eyes narrowed with cold light. He hadn't expected that this head-on clash wouldn't incapacitate Mu Chen. No wonder you were able to defeat Liu Yan. You do have quite a few tricks up your sleeve. The Netherworld prince observed Mu Chen and slowly spoke. The previous clash would have severely injured any other fourth-grade supreme, but for Mu Chen, it only caused him to spit out a mouthful of blood. Mu Chen coldly stared at the Netherworld prince. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and in his dark eyes, there was not the slightest hint of fear from the overwhelming force the Netherworld prince had shown. Instead, intense battle intent surged within him. He suddenly formed hand seals, and golden light erupted from his body, spreading across the skies. It eventually transformed into a giant golden figure, standing tall between heaven and earth. Mu Chen stood atop the great sun indestructible body. He clenched his palm, and the great Xun'er demon pillar shot through the air, falling into the massive palm of the great sun indestructible body. The Netherworld prince stared at the peculiar great sun indestructible body, his brows furrowing slightly. He, too, could not recognize the origin of this supreme Dharmakaya before him, but he could clearly sense that it was far from ordinary. Even if you fight to the death, the outcome cannot be changed. The Netherworld prince paid little attention to Mu Chen's desperate resistance. He lightly closed his hand, and a ghostly light gathered in his palm, eventually transforming into a pitch-black halberd. This halberd emitted an extremely cold spiritual energy fluctuation, its chill so intense that even the spiritual energy in the surrounding world froze and solidified. That is the top-tier divine artifact of the Netherworld Palace, the Nether God Halberd. Numerous powerful figures in the heavens and earth could not help but exclaim, clearly familiar with the halberd in the hands of the Netherworld prince. It seems the Netherworld Prince truly has no intention of giving Mu Chen any chance to survive. He's even summoned the Nether God Halberd. Some sighed inwardly. If the Netherworld Prince had been looking down on his opponent, perhaps Mu Chen could have found a sliver of opportunity. But clearly, the Netherworld Prince, who had risen from countless battles, was not the type to make such a foolish mistake. Even when hunting a rabbit, a lion uses its full strength. The Netherworld Prince had become the most outstanding among the younger generation of the Netherworld Palace, and he clearly would not make the mistake of underestimating his opponent, only to end up defeated. You haven't truly broken through to the 5th grade supreme. Mu Chen stared intently at the Netherworld Prince and slowly spoke. After their brief clash earlier, Mu Chen had sensed the Netherworld Prince's formidable strength, but he also realized that the Netherworld Prince was not yet a true 5th grade supreme. According to his estimation, he was at the critical point of breaking through. However, even so, the danger posed by the Netherworld Prince far exceeded that of Liu Yan. The Netherworld Prince, surprised that Mu Chen had detected his strength, gave a faint smile and said, "Does an ant care whether it's crushed by a wolf or a tiger?" Mu Chen sneered and stomped his foot. Immediately, 2 golden suns slowly rose from the forehead and chest of the great sun indestructible body. Supreme divine ability, duel solar power. Mu Chen shouted inwardly, and the golden suns erupted, releasing a massive force capable of crushing mountains, extending from the great sun indestructible body. Interesting, the Netherworld Prince said, watching the rising momentum and power of Mu Chen with a shifting expression. He then smiled and said, "So, you're truly willing to fight to the death? But I fear it will be all for nothing. Whether it's futile or not, it's too early to say," Mu Chen coldly retorted. Then, the golden light within the great sun indestructible body surged, illuminating the great Xun'er demon pillar in dazzling gold. The pillar then shattered the void, accompanied by a vast shadow and earth-shattering power, descending upon the Netherworld Prince. Faced with such a powerful enemy, Mu Chen was clearly pushing all his strength to the limit. Countless powerful figures in the heavens and earth watched as Mu Chen launched his offensive, their expressions growing solemn. Mu Chen's courage was indeed surprising and admirable, but in a battle with such a disparity in strength, courage alone was unlikely to make much of a difference. Ultimately, strength was the most important. This clash would undoubtedly be even more intense than the previous one. Boom. The great Xun'er demon pillar, gleaming with golden light as if cast from gold, shattered the sky, carrying a massive shadow and incredible power. It descended toward the Netherworld Prince, fast as a thunderbolt, amidst the awe-filled gazes of the crowd. Under the demon pillar, even the space itself began to show signs of distortion, showing just how powerful the force Mu Chen had unleashed with the dual solar power of the great sun indestructible body truly was. However, despite Mu Chen's full-force attack, the Netherworld Prince's pale face showed little emotion. He simply raised the Nether God Halberd in his hand. In the next moment, a cold and ruthless glint flashed in his eyes. He had finally made his move. Swish! Everyone could only see a faint, ghostly light tearing through the sky, followed by the crisp sound of metal clashing. The massive great Xun'er demon pillar, which had been hurtling down with unstoppable force, suddenly froze. Countless gazes followed the tip of the great Xun'er demon pillar, and there, beneath it, a black long spear remained motionless, bracing against the pillar. Though the spear was nearly insignificant in size compared to the vastness of the great Xun'er demon pillar, so small it seemed it could break at any moment. It was this slender spear that kept the massive pillar from advancing even an inch. Numerous powerful beings watching from all directions secretly clicked their tongues. Was this the strength of the second-ranked individual in the Dragon Phoenix record? Truly terrifying. Just the display of power here had already surpassed Liu Yan by an immeasurable margin. This dark horse, Mu Chen, who had been charging forward like an unstoppable force, had finally encountered a true opponent. The question now was whether he could continue his path to victory. Mu Chen stood atop the great sun indestructible body. His face was grim as he gazed at the Netherworld Prince, who was holding the long spear with one hand, preventing the great Xun'er demon pillar from moving. He took a deep breath, his eyes growing sharper. He knew this battle would not be easy. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the sky, the air grew dense. Though there was no violent surge of spiritual energy, the stillness itself drew the attention of countless powerful figures. They understood that no matter how intense the battle between Mu Chun and the Netherworld Prince was, this moment, this battle, was the most important. After all, the two people facing off here were the strongest beings in the Dragon Phoenix heaven. Fang Yi, ranked first in the Dragon Phoenix record, his reputation among the young generation of the Northern Domain was nearly unparalleled. Many talented individuals were overshadowed by his name, and everyone knew that he would likely become the next master of the Divine Hall. He was destined to become a top figure in the Northern Domain. And then there was Cai Xiao, who was shrouded in mystery, making others shudder in fear. She had swept through her opponents effortlessly. Even the Netherworld Prince and Fang Yi, two extraordinary talents, had failed to gain an advantage when facing her. Thus, the battle between these two was the true determining factor for the ownership of the Dragon Phoenix inheritance. Cai Xiao's delicate jade foot lightly tapped the void, her icy, enchanting eyes faintly locking onto Fang Yi. Between her jade hands, seven-colored spiritual light flickered. Fang Yi's expression remained calm, but a trace of seriousness lay deep in his eyes. Facing the mysterious Cai Xiao, even someone as confident as him could not be certain of victory. Yet, no matter what, there was no turning back now. Fang Yi slowly clenched both hands. In an instant, the vast spiritual energy surged, rippling through the space behind him. The immense power of spiritual energy surged like a tidal wave, sweeping forward. Then let me experience your methods, young lady. Fang Yi smiled slightly, and with a flick of his finger, the spiritual energy behind him howled. The spiritual light surged, transforming into hundreds of massive purple light greatswords. These greatswords radiated overwhelming sword energy, as if they could tear apart the very fabric of the heavens and earth. The sheer number and ferocity of the sword energy made countless powerful beings' scalps tingle. Just one of these swords would likely be enough to force a fourth grade supreme into a difficult position, and now, all of them were gathering together. The power was astounding. Clearly, Fang Yi understood that facing an opponent as powerful as Cai Xiao, holding back would only result in humiliation. Buzz! Fang Yi's long fingers flicked lightly, and the sound of swords ringing filled the air. The sound wave spread for miles, and soon after, everyone saw the sea of purple sword light whistling toward Cai Xiao, sweeping over her like a torrential downpour. Such a spectacle was truly terrifying. However, facing the barrage of sword energy, Cai Xiao simply extended her jade finger and drew a line through the air. Immediately, the space in front of her was torn open, creating a dark, black spatial rift. Sizzle! The purple sword light surged forward but was completely devoured by the spatial rift, unable to harm Cai Xiao, who stood behind the tear. Numerous powerful beings saw Fang Yi's attack effortlessly neutralized by Cai Xiao, their eyes widened in shock. This Cai Xiao was indeed formidable. No wonder Fang Yi seemed so wary of her. Such petty tricks, why bother making a fool of yourself? Cai Xiao sneered, then lightly tapped her jade foot in the air. The space rippled, and she vanished without a trace. She was about to make her move. As Cai Xiao's figure disappeared, Fang Yi's pupils constricted. He felt the space around him ripple, and before he knew it, he too vanished without a trace. When the powerful beings saw the two of them disappear, their eyes widened in disbelief. Such ghostly speed was nearly impossible to guard against. Boom! In some void, 1,000 feet away, a violent surge of spiritual energy erupted, tearing through the air. In the distorted space, two ghostly figures suddenly appeared, and then, their palms collided forcefully. The shockwave spread out, shaking both of their bodies, sending them flying backward. However, it was clear that Fang Yi's retreat was much more pronounced. He forcibly stabilized his body, his brows furrowing. Then, with a firm grip, a violet sword appeared in his hand. The sword's aura was so sharp that it even ripped through the surrounding space, clearly indicating that it was a superior divine artifact. Swish! Without hesitation, Fang Yi unleashed his spiritual energy, and in the distortion of space, his figure disappeared once more, leaving only the sharp sword aura soaring into the sky. The clash between Cai Xiao and Fang Yi wasn't as earth-shattering as one might expect, but instead, it seemed eerily quiet. The two figures kept appearing all over the sky, almost as if they were continuously teleporting. Their speed was so fast that it was impossible for the onlookers to follow with their eyes, only able to express their amazement. Up in the sky, Su Biyue, Hong Yu, and Ding Xian watched the two battlefields below, and all three of them could only smile wryly and shake their heads. The Dragon Phoenix Heaven this time seemed to be entirely a show put on by these individuals. They were practically just watching a play. I wonder who will win. Ding Xian's deep voice resonated. He was naturally a battle enthusiast, but in this particular battlefield, he clearly didn't dare to intervene recklessly. If he drew attention, he'd be in trouble. As for the fight between Cai Xiao and Fang Yi, it's hard to tell for now. But over on the side of Mu Chun and the Netherworld Prince, the latter seems to have the absolute advantage. However, Mu Chun's goal is to stall the Netherworld Prince, and it seems like he's achieving that. The only problem is, the Netherworld Prince might not allow that to happen. Su Biyue spoke softly. As one of the best among the younger generation of the Northern Domain, she could clearly assess the situation at a glance. Once the Netherworld Prince defeats Mu Chun, and if he teams up with Fang Yi, then Cai Xiao will be in a bind. Hong Yu chuckled at Su Biyue's words. So, it seems like you think the Netherworld Prince and Fang Yi will win? But I don't think the Netherworld Prince will be so easily rid of Mu Chun. Mu Chun is indeed not simple, but the Netherworld Prince isn't someone you can easily deal with either, Su Biyue smiled. She wasn't biased, and just spoke the truth as she knew it. Is that so? Well, let's watch and see. Hong Yu grinned. In reality, she knew this too, but out of her usual habit of opposing Su Biyue, she wasn't inclined to agree. Meanwhile, the battles at both locations were intensifying. The incredible surges of spiritual energy shattered the thick clouds within a radius of 10,000 feet, turning them into fragments that floated in the sky. Boom. The great Xun'er demon pillar, filled with terrifying power, kept swinging, but no matter how ferocious it was, it couldn't shake the long halberd in the Netherworld Prince's hand. Their clash was fierce. Although Mu Chun appeared to be in the midst of a brutal assault, everyone could tell he was at a disadvantage. But Mu Chun wasn't anxious. He knew the gap between him and the Netherworld Prince. Without the aid of the Great Sun indestructible body and the Dragon Phoenix body, he would never be able to directly confront the Netherworld Prince. Moreover, the current situation was exactly what he wanted. From the start, he never planned to defeat the Netherworld Prince. What he needed was to buy time for Cai Xiao. Just as Fang Yi and the Netherworld Prince had hoped, Fang Yi wanted the Netherworld Prince to quickly defeat Mu Chun so they could team up against Cai Xiao. Mu Chun was also waiting for Cai Xiao to defeat Fang. Once one side failed, the outcome of the battle would be decided. Time passed as the battle raged on. The four of them, watching intently, had eyes that flickered slightly, sensing that the conclusion was drawing near. At the same time, both Cai Xiao and the Netherworld Prince's gazes became sharper. Their auras had dramatically shifted. Noticing the change in their aura, Mu Chun and Fang Yi's pupils slightly contracted, their bodies tensing up. They're about to decide the outcome. Su Biyue, Hong Yu, and the others' expressions changed, and they began to feel a growing tension.